All right, joining me via Zoom, guy, I'm privileged to get to talk to a few times a year. Somebody, I just love talking to you, Coach. Bruce Pearl, head coach, Auburn. Always love talking with you. Sometimes we stick to basketball, real life, all that good stuff. But first of all, how is the summer going? How you doing? I know coaches don't really get a summer these days, but how's everything going?
Aaron, everything is good. It's great to be on campus with our student athletes, being able to practice some through the summer. One of the best rules the NCAA made the adjustment on was giving us time in the summer to teach our kids. Young people go to college to try to grow and try to learn. And, whether you're an artist or a musician or an engineer or a basketball player, everybody understands the value of a work ethic. I'm sure back in the day, coaches were exploiting, student athletes and driving them into the ground, but we all understand the importance of rest and recovery and this different seasons of training. So the fact that we get to work with our guys year round is something, because I'm old enough to remember when we couldn't work them out in the summertime, but we were responsible for them. And there was a time, Aaron, that's why European basketball actually jumped out ahead of intercollegiate basketball, because we weren't able to put our hands on it like we can now. So it's been really good.
That's what I was going to ask, because I don't think it's been, what is it, been about 6-7 years? I don't think it's been that long since you guys have been able to actually work with them. I mean, I remember the stories being, kids would play hundreds of AAU games a year, 50, 60, 70, 80 over the course of a summer. Then they get to campus and coach can't talk to them until the first day of practice. So one, it seems like you're enjoying it. And two, I would ask you, as a coach, how do you find that balance of exactly what you just said? Getting your hands on them, getting to know some of the new guys, not trying to do too much, not trying to push too hard, knowing that you're going to be with them for another, 8-9 months through March and April of next year.
I mean, it's a long season, but I do think kids want to be held accountable. I still think they want discipline. Everybody talks about what's changed. What's changed sometimes are the parents. And I love our parents. I love working with them. It's just that, we've got this society of rather than fighting, we flee. If your kid's not playing shortstop and batting third, put them on a different team. Just forget it. We're going to go across town. We're going to try something else. Instead of, you know what, son, you might want to try to stop swinging at bad pitches, and maybe, so we could bat you third. And so, what does summer training look like? Summer training is time to put on a little bit of size. So take after me. I put on size, except I put it on my gut. But, so there's a different kind of weight training. And so therefore you've got to be able to work with your strength and conditioning coach on what kind of a loads am I going to have in practice? How much full court are we going to do? How much running and conditioning are we going to do? One of the summer times, we're going to push some more plates. We're going to obviously hydration is an issue. The nutrition and eating 5 or 6 times a day, but some of the time to put on a little bit of size. It's also, time to work on things that you don't own, that you don't possess. What are you good at? Let's go get great at it. You can't be great at anything unless you're already good at it. So a lot of times in the summertime, I want my guys working actually on their strengths and not so much working on their weaknesses. We'll hide their weaknesses, but we're going to obviously feature their strengths. And then, giving them the recovery of the weekends. We'll probably only go 4.5 days a week in the summertime, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and maybe Friday morning. And then they're off for the weekend, pretty much every weekend. So they can get away mentally and they really get a nice long recovery of at least 2.5 days off. That's kind of what we tend to do in the summertime.
The other thing that stood out, and, I'm grateful because there was a game that was announced the morning that we speak of, that we're speaking here, which we'll get to in a minute. But I also had forgotten you guys are taking a foreign tour this summer. So, one, how much does that help get you ready for the season? But then two, you guys are going to Israel. I read all your comments when the tour was announced. And I know this is a very important trip for you from like an educational experience, not just a basketball experience. So would love to know, I think you're about a month, 5 weeks away from heading out to Israel. What you hope to get out for what you hope the guys to get out of that trip?
Well, Aaron, first of all, I think the rule of being able to go overseas on a foreign trip once every 4 years is another great rule by the NCAA. I've traveled and my teams have traveled all over the world. I'm talking about from China to Korea, Japan, to Eastern and Western Europe. I've not done the South American trip yet, but we do look at it as more than just a trip to the Bahamas, not to be critical, because that's a cool place during the year, but we do look at it as an educational experience. And again, you name it, we've been there and seen it. Israel is probably the second best country in the world to play professional basketball, NBA being number one. I mean, Israel, the way they pay and the quality of the teams and the fan base could be number two. Back in the day, you'd think it would be Spain or Italy, and no criticism there, but man, they play really good basketball. They pay really well. They got great professional clubs. But for one reason or another, Israel has not been a common destination for people. The perception of it being not safe, the perception of it being somehow disputed territories. Unfortunately, there are places in our country that aren't very safe, and that's a problem that we should obviously fix. But I've been to Israel many times, and it's a beautiful, beautiful country with beautiful people. What people don't understand about Israel, just from a political, religious, and political perspective, there are 9 million people in Israel, 6 million Jews, and 3 million Arabs. And most of them are living in peace. And it's actually quite a melting pot. And of course, when you're in the Middle East, most of the people there are people of color. And so, for me to take my players to a place like that where my Jewish history lies, their Christian history was born and lies, to be able to see where Jesus was born, where he was taught, where he ministered, and where he died historically, is just an incredible experience. And of course, as a coach, I'm always trying to bring things together. And so, I'm going to be able to tie the two of those things together. Their Judeo-Christian heritage. Our guys that want to go get baptized are going to get baptized in the River Jordan, the same river and approximately the same location where John baptized Jesus. What an incredible opportunity for our players that want to be able to do that. And so, and then from a basketball standpoint, we're playing the Israeli national team. We're playing the U20 team. I mean, when you go overseas, a lot of times the competition is not really good. This is going to be all we want. And so I am just so excited about it. And the last thing I'll say, Aaron, thank you for giving me this opportunity. My goal and my dream is to create this August trip to Israel a reality for 2 or 3 college teams every year. Like this, we're the first Power 5 men's basketball team to ever go to Israel and play. There was a couple of D3 teams that have gone. I think the Vanderbilt women went one year. But there's never been any big-time men's college basketball team that have gone over there and competed. I'm trying to create a situation there where they'll be tying in the Abraham Accords and some of the peace treaties and the normalization of relations between UAE and Bahrain and Morocco and Israel and the United States, and have this be a destination in August that other coaches are going to want to take their teams for the reason why I'm taking my team.
That's incredible. And, one thing I would say, being a little bit older, I've had the chance to travel a little bit, and you realize exactly what you just said. Most people, almost all people, are good people, working hard, trying to provide for their family. How important are those life lessons for you as a coach, where we all get caught up in our bubble, myself certainly included, and you're dealing with 17, 18, 19-year-old impressionable people that are maybe from one area of the country. They've never really been anywhere else, or they've only traveled for basketball and they haven't gotten outside the hotel. How important is it for you, whether it is this trip, whether it is an SEC road trip, whether it is a Thanksgiving tournament, to expose your players to things outside of maybe their comfort zone?
Well, I think it's very important. And as a teacher, a coach, a part-time minister, because this is more of a ministry than it is anything else, I just think it's my responsibility to expose them to different things. Like, one of the great challenges for college coaches was, and in some ways still is, our players' right to protest the things that are wrong that go on, the racism that's out there. You're a young brother, Colin Kaepernick takes a knee for the national anthem, and you want to support him in his messaging. You've been profiled when you walk into a store. You've been stopped by law enforcement at times, sometimes for no other reason other than the fact that you weren't the right color in the wrong place at the wrong time. Those things exist. Now, they don't exist as much as they did for my players' fathers and my players' fathers' fathers. And so I don't think our country gets near enough credit for just what a great place this is for, and a great opportunity for us all to be able to live. However, there's pressure on them. Do I kneel and support my brother, or do I stand and honor my country and the people that are there at our games that love our? Well, you got to teach them to love our country. You got to teach them about patriotism. You got to teach them about the flag. I bring military guys every year in. About half the guys says, if I was in your situation, I'd probably kneel. I have another half of the guys that come in and say, you know what? I fought and was willing to give my life so that you would have the right to kneel. And then when the players ask them a question, well, how would you feel if we knelt? Most of the time, the soldiers say, it'd probably break my heart because I love Auburn basketball. I love what you guys are doing. I fought for the right to kneel, but if you're asking how I'd feel, man, I wish you'd honor the flag. Would you honor the flag for me? And guess what? Our guys will. And then what we find out is like, you know what? Let's raise money for scholarships, for more students that look like you to come to Auburn, to have more diversity, just things like that. So what I just said to you, Aaron, people could take issue with and absolutely disagree. And I'm not trying to get my guys to necessarily go on one side or the other. I might be a little bit, but I want them exposed to both. And then I want them to be able to make their own decisions.
All I can say to that is, I not that anyone cares about my opinion, but I agree wholeheartedly with everything you said is finding that balance. And as the son of immigrants, as, the husband of immigrants, we do live in a great country that sometimes gets lost in the shuffle of some of the conversations. And I'm glad you shared that with me. A little bit of basketball stuff, obviously next couple weeks, huge for Auburn basketball. You, your staff, your players have accomplished a ton since you've gotten there, since your staff has gotten there. You might add one more thing to the trophy case here in the next couple of days with a potential #1 overall pick with Jabari Smith. How proud are you of Jabari? Tell us about, we all watched him, 40% three-point shooter at 6'10". We see the stuff on the court. Tell us about him off the court, because I'm sure this is probably the #1 question that Bruce Pearl has been asked over the last probably 2 months or so.
Well, Aaron, the reason why I think he goes #1 is for all the things that you said, but then the things that people don't see behind the scenes. He's just such a pro. He's in the gym every morning at 6:30, 5-6 days a week with unbelievable consistency. All he did was come in here and want to get better because he knew he had things he had to work on. He wanted to win championships. He wanted to be an unbelievable teammate, and he wanted to enjoy his freshman year or a sophomore year in college and have a college experience. His teammates were so happy for his success and not jealous of his success. He brought others into the gym along with them. He didn't care about his individual numbers. He just cared about what the scoreboard said. Did he want the ball? Absolutely, because he knew he could win games for us. He wasn't ever afraid of the moment. He played for me at 18 years old, and he never acted like it, either in practice or during the game. He was tough. For a guy that only weighed, let's say, 210 pounds, and the scouting report was to try to push him around, that was a big mistake. All you did was piss him off, and he was going to beat you. He's the first time, he's a guaranteed NBA All-Star. And I just don't know that there are many guys in the league now at 6'10" that can make contested jump shots like he can. He can guard 1 through 5. He moves his feet. He sits down and he impacts the game on both ends. So he's absolutely a joy to coach. And he's the reason, he is one of the major reasons, if not the reason, that we're #1 in the country for 3 weeks while we won the SEC. And we didn't finish the season great. We got upset by Miami. Weren't playing our great best at the end of the year. But there was probably about a month during the season where we were the best team in college basketball at Auburn. And that's because of Jabari Smith. That's because of Walker Kessler and the guys on this team and this coaching staff.
You mentioned Walker Kessler. He's another one that I loved watching with you guys, and I could see where he could have success in the NBA. And one thing that really stood out as I was kind of thinking about knowing I was going to talk to you, as we watch these playoffs, as we watch these finals, basically everybody on the floor, except for maybe one guy as a role player, And while Walker Kessler was National Defensive Player of the Year, all SEC, whatever, he was kind of a role player for you guys, right? Defense, energy, second chance points, catching lobs. And that was one thing that stood out is that, it's a cliche in basketball, like star in your role. And again, all SEC. So it's not to say that he was the ninth guy off the bench, but was kind of, first of all, is that fair to say that he sort of played a role for you guys? And I assume at 7'1" or whatever, he could do the same thing for an NBA team.
I'm telling you right now, you put a great player or two on the floor, you put 3 role players, you're going to win championships. Now, Walker's going to be, he was the best player in college basketball in the air, offensively, defensively, as a rim protector and catching everything that was thrown up to him. A great offensive rebounder, an excellent passer, positive assist turnover ratio. And he shot the 3 ball 50 times for us. Now, he didn't shoot a great percentage, but he's going to be a really good 3-point shooter at the next level. First thing you got to do is you got to actually be willing to shoot it. And he was willing to shoot it. And he also works at it. Those 2 guys were both our hardest workers and 2 of our greatest competitors. So I had the best front line in college basketball. I only had them for 1 year, but we certainly did enjoy them while we had them. And they were both great people from great families. And they're both guaranteed.
Very good. Couple questions. We'll get you out of here. You mentioned having to replace the best front line in college basketball. Tell us a little bit about the new guys. Janae Broome was a guy. I mean, I watched him enough at Morehead State. I know some of the guys down there, they loved him. I'm excited to see what he can do for you guys. It was an intense recruiting battle. Everybody in college basketball wanted him. The Auburn Tigers got him. I know it's early. Well, I don't want to put too much on his plate, 3 weeks on campus or whatever, but what have you seen from him so far?
Well, he looks good. When you lose 2 first-round frontline guys, you have an opportunity. We happened to play against Janai when he was at Morehead State at Auburn. We played very well that day. It was our opening game, so that was a real eye opener for Morehead about what kind of what that level was. Look, Janai is a big guy that can move. He can really score with his back to the basket. He is an excellent rim protector also, and while he didn't shoot the 3 ball at Morehead, he's going to shoot it for me. And so he's got a really good stroke. It's going to be a little new for him. He's going to be facing the basket a little bit more than what he typically was. He can switch and guard a lot of different positions, which we've been very, very excited about. The fact that he does move so well. He's able to keep guards in front of him, which is a real litmus test, I think, for the next level. And so we're excited about what he brings. And then Yohan Traylor is a young freshman that can really shoot the basketball. He's got tremendous upside. He's really, really athletic. He can score facing with his back to the basket a little bit. I got 2 really good young prospects to come into a team where you've got Dylan Cardwell, who is an established inside player. Jalen Williams was the best backup 4-man in college basketball last year because as a sophomore, Jalen was this close to being an all-SEC type player. He returns. And then Stretch Babatunde has been in the program for a number of years. He's really good. I've got 5 pretty good frontline players. We've got great depth on the front line. And so I like, what we've got brought in, and I like the returning guys. We'll miss the best player in college basketball in Jabari Smith, and certainly the best rim protector in Walker Kessler.
Coach, you got stuff to do, man. It used to be June. You get to kick your feet up a little bit. I don't know what Bruce Pearl does in his free time. I don't know if you're a lake guy, a boat guy, a beach guy, but you got other interviews. You got, press conferences. You just got a game announced today. So I appreciate you making a few minutes. As I said at the beginning, always enjoy speaking with you. It's a blast. I enjoy it. And we'll do this again sometime in the future.
Well, Aaron, I enjoy, talking basketball with you and thank you for letting me open my heart up to some other issues and things like that. And forgive me, folks that, offer me the grace if I said anything that would be offensive or, I think we should be able to trade ideas and agree to disagree on things like that. I read you, I follow you. I think you do a really, really nice job. It's a safe space for us to come into. I'm very proud of the SEC. I'm very proud of Auburn. Our baseball team is getting ready to compete up in Omaha.
Are you going?
I'm going to go. I am. I'm going to go to Omaha and see their second game. Butch Thompson has done an amazing job. This is his second trip to the World Series in the last 3 or 4 years. And you just look across the board at Auburn in so many ways, both in the classroom and in the community, and with our sports programs. I'm just glad that men's basketball is holding up its end.
Well, two things. One, I told you last time I'm a UConn Husky. The Huskies had won their super regional. I was going to be in Omaha. That's one. But two, I remember Bruce Pearl saying after you beat Kentucky at home, Auburn's not a basketball school. It's an everything school. So very prophetic in that. So we'll be watching the Tigers at Omaha. We'll be watching the Tigers in Israel this summer. And Coach, thank you again for the time.
Okay, my pleasure. Warriors.